All right. Well, I get the idea that some people have joined us, so we're going to jump in and get some people as they continue to join us. Want to talk a little bit about this Purpose First webinar series. As you see, the Rare Breed Rising. I just want to spend a moment to talk about what we're doing here, and what we hope all of you can do while we're doing this, which is essentially. We're going to look at a topic that we've been all thinking about lately and just having some conversations around, which is this idea of purpose and purpose first. So what we're going to do is, and we have some guests, and we're going to get to that in a minute, but what we're hoping to do is that as we go through this, you'll see it's very conversational, and we hope to invite you guys in. So if there are any questions at any time, what we want you to do is use the question box and ask your question, a comment. And what we're going to do is we have a way that we'll kind of revisit it a little bit later, but it would be a great opportunity to ask questions of us, of Sunny and Ashleigh. So inviting you to do that, but it is about Rare Breed Rising. And I want to talk a bit more about the subject matter. And so if we can kind of push on this notion of purpose, and really we all know because we're all dealing with it, but with the pandemic now is we're all dealing with some type of pivot, whether it's personal, whether it's as part of a brand or a company. And when we say, this idea of purpose and Rare Breed, it could be a person, an individual, could be a team within a company, could be a brand. So when we talk about, the idea of Rare Breed, use it as you will. But what we're talking about, this idea of purpose as the pivot, we are looking at conversations with people who really use purpose as a source of power and as a way to incite positive change. So that's the reason we're here, and we're really excited to dive into it with the guests we have today. But as you can see, the real driver in this is a question that everybody is dealing with right now, which is, how do you evolve when you have no choice but to evolve? And we talk about it as really feet to the fire moments. I mean, it's a feet to the fire moment right now. And another way to look at it is if you're in business or you have a brand, there's a matter of really forced evolution, which is everything has changed. We are fully out of comfort zones here. So what we want to do is really address it from the topic of Rare Breed. So that's the idea for Rare Breeds Rising. So let's just kind of jump into that. And this is us. Lindsay, hey.
Hey guys.
Yeah. Lindsay is part of the client service here at 29, and myself, I am a senior vice president of brand strategy and innovation here at 29, and those two are Sunny and Ashleigh.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, everybody.
We're very excited to be here.
Really excited to talk to Sunny and Ashleigh about Rare Breeds and really a lot of the stuff that they're seeing, and we're going to dive into some of the topics that we hope are really relevant and resonate with you guys. So that's what we're going to do. So inviting the questions and dive in wherever you feel so compelled, and we're going to get to it as we go through this in the next hour or so. So that's what we're doing. Lindsay, if you would jump in, that'd be great.
You got it. How are you guys doing today? Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah. Us.
Yes, Sunny and Ashleigh.
The crowd.
And everyone else.
I was like waiting for the whole audience to be like,
yeah,
and chime in.
No, thank you so much for having us. It's a real pleasure to be able to share Rare Breed and to know that the book that we wrote is resonating with people like us, which are people like you as well, and really empowering everyone, especially I think during this really weird time that we're living in, where we're all kind of being forced to kind of do a bit of a gut check on who we are and what we want out of our lives and our businesses and our brands. And so this is a very special and meaningful conversation for us to be having with you.
Hey, likewise. And I think I speak for all of us over at 29 when I say how excited we are to be speaking to you about some of those core thematic elements that are present throughout Rare Breed, which also happened to be our April book club selection. So certainly excited to be diving into this together with you. I think we certainly relate to many of the concepts that were expressed throughout the book, and we're really excited to be partnering together to use this platform really as a means of gathering great perspectives from other like-minded individuals and agencies, which is exactly what we're doing here today. So with that, I think we can dive into things. I'd love to start by allowing you to speak a little bit about Rare Breed and how it came to be, as well as the inherent duality that exists within each of the virtues that are identified throughout the book. I think we could really talk about what a rare breed is and also what it isn't.
Yeah, it's a very loaded question. So
yes,
many pieces to that. So I think it starts with what we actually started with, which was this question about what if we could take the parts of ourselves that other people criticize, traits that they call defiant, dangerous, and different, which are the 7 traits that you have up on the screen there, which are the vices. What are these things that people tell us, society, our mentors, our friends, our family? What are these traits that people our whole lives have taught us that are counterintuitive to our success? And so we started to explore this. And I think we kind of did it haphazardly in the very beginning. We didn't realize we were doing this, but I think it started when we started our agency, because we were 20-something females in a world where 60-ish admin made the rules. And we dropped out of college, started an agency in a very small town where there were only a few established players. And every person that we encountered told us that we would fail. We were too young, too broke, too female to succeed. And it was, I think, kind of a process of self-discovery where you're actually starting to believe that maybe you don't have what it takes. And so what it starts to do is condition you to believe that maybe the things that make you who you are actually things that you should quiet down. You know, you should kind of grind down your prickly points in order to succeed. What we learned, though, as we started our agency and as we did a lot of work specifically with leaders and with organizations and teams and really our own career, that we learned that these traits, that being defiant and dangerous and different was actually a gift. And if we could learn to kind of leverage them and love those traits, they could actually be the secrets to our success. And what we found by interviewing a lot of leaders throughout our agency, and of course, doing talks and working with people over the last 15 years, that theory continued to prove itself out. And so it took us 15 years to kind of conceptualize this idea and really start to identify what it actually meant and what the word was that we were looking for. We were like, what are these people? Like, what are these people that have these traits? And, you know, it was kind of, we, you know, sat around and we were like, is it the X factor? Is it the special sauce? Like, what is it? And one day, early on in our career, we had a conversation with my dad, and we were kind of at the end of our rope where we were literally thinking about quitting. And he said, you two are a rare breed, and not everybody's going to love you. Some people are going to hate you. But the ones who get you will never forget you. So you've got to just double down on who you are. Like, you just need to own who you are. And it really stuck with us because we were like, wow, like a rare breed. What is a rare breed? And so we kind of put a pin in it and didn't think of that word for a long time. Like, we just kind of kept it in the back of our minds, but didn't really expand on it until we had this idea where we were going to write a book. And we were like, well, we should call the book. And then Ash was like, remember that time that your dad called us a rare breed? She's like, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's actually that what we're trying to talk about here is that people who have ignored their own voice finally become awakened. They tap into the true sense of who they are. They begin to own who they are, and they become a rare breed in whatever they do. And rare breed simply means unordinary among the kind. And so how do you become that? And so the last several years of writing this book and of course now talking about it has been simply dedicated to finding out how do we help others realize that the traits within them that they have been told they're too emotional, too weird, too obsessive, too audacious, too rebellious for the room. We're trying to teach others that that's actually a gift. And here's how you can apply it to your life, work, and career in order to be celebrated, not criticized. And so that's really been the basis of Rare Breed.
You guys, you mind if I jump in with a question?
Go for it.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember going through the book and seeing a point early on where you guys talked about the early drafts of the book and where you wanted to go with it. And it really was, you can tell me, originally planned as a branding / business book.
Mm-hmm.
And I think someone close to you said, this has to be, it must be bigger than that. And it has to be, on that personal level. So if I can just add on a question of what is a rare breed and what isn't, can you speak a little bit about, and particularly for this audience, because you probably have a lot of mixed in terms of personal or business or building teams, but we answered what is a rare breed. Who in your opinion, who is a rare breed, and who can find some inspiration in being a rare breed?
This is a really key question, because I think a lot of people have the question themselves, like, am I a rare breed? Like, am I unique enough, different enough, interesting enough, compelling enough? Like, am I enough of who I am to be a rare breed? We get this question all the time from someone who's trying to see themselves in this light. And I think what we have found is that each one of us is a rare breed just by the nature of us being born, first and foremost. How rare is that to begin with? But then more interestingly, it's those who go on to fully embrace who they are at their core and don't shy away from it, don't dumb it down, don't try to apologize for being this way, but they learn how to craft it and massage it and bring it into the focus of who they are in order to kind of reach their aspirations. Usually we find rare breeds are highly ambitious people who see greatness for themselves and they aspire to make this huge difference in the world, but they're constantly being cut down and find it hard to be able to realize that potential because of the society that we live in, the cultural that we live in. But anyone can be a rare breed if they go through the process of allowing themselves to actually be who they are. There's famous rare breeds, and rare breeds have existed for centuries. There's people who rise to the top, who are cultural icons. You see that person, you're like, wow, that is a rare breed. Anthony Bourdain was a rare breed, right? There's these cultural icons that we all know and love across all industries and all sectors and all businesses. But I think that anyone, a janitor can be a rare breed, a plumber can be a rare breed, a hairstylist can be a rare breed. Anyone can be a rare breed as long as they allow themselves to fully become who they are and make a difference in the world because of it.
Yeah, but I would also say that they are in fact rare. The reason that there's not more rare
because not
breeds,
many people do that.
Right. Well, there's a really important point, which is while everyone else in the world is kind of suppressing their pain in the ass qualities, I really think rare breeds have learned how to celebrate them and let them off the leash to vandalize tradition. I think that's the truth of the matter. And what is the difference that I think we've learned is that there is a difference between hearing the voice and doing something about the voice. And I think a lot of us are on paths that we feel like are the right path for us to be on. And we believe we've sort of been conditioned into that path. And some of us just kind of don't know any other way because we've not stepped back long enough or given ourselves enough grace to actually hear our own voice. And so what I think rare breeds do really well is I think they hear it, they act on it, and it becomes the path that they don't know any other way. It's like that other life that they could have lived is not the one that they are being fully alive in. And that's probably the biggest thing I see between what I would say is a rare breed or not a rare breed is the act of coming into owning who you are in a world that wants to own you and actually hearing that voice, acting on that voice, doing something about it, and actually making it the path that you want to take, regardless of how difficult it is. I've known people that actually one of the folks that coached us on this book, he actually worked with Simon Sinek on Start With Why. And he's known Ashleigh and I since we were like in our early 20s. He was the very first consultant that we ever hired. and he helped us when Rare Breed had got rejected. You had mentioned something, Gary, about Rare Breed being a branding book in the beginning, which it was. We thought it was a branding book, and after we had written the whole damn thing, and we got rejected by every major publisher, we realized that it wasn't a branding book and that it was so much bigger. And so as we thought we were going to hang it up and not write it again, and just basically that was done for, we remembered that we were writing a book about defiance. And so we went and stripped the whole thing down. It wasn't actually that what we had written was wrong. It was that we had positioned it wrong. And so when we went back to all those same publishers that had said no with the same title, which, by the way, you're not supposed to do. It's kind of known that you don't do that typically in the publishing world. We didn't listen to anybody, and we went back with the same name, and it ended up going to a bidding war. But what it taught us was the lesson, right? Which was what Mark, our coach, said. He said, look, you guys, like this is a fucking good book. Like, what are you doing? He's like, you just wrote a book about being defiant, dangerous, and different. And here you are saying you're going to quit. He's like, get your ass back into that room and rewrite this book. So, those are the kind of lessons I think that you find is that when everyone else has quit, Rare Breeds they just refuse to
keep pressing on.
They just keep going. They turn that no into a yes.
That's awesome. If I can, I want to just build on something you just said and have you react to it, which was this idea of really taking action and coming to grips with really who you are and owning it, as you say that. And the notion I brought up earlier is the feet to the fire moment. I mean, sometimes you can do it at your own pace, or, to turn it into, a casual pursuit of getting to your essence. But I think, as we all would agree, I mean, we're in a place now where it's non-negotiable. I mean, you got to take stock, and you got to figure out this kind of process you want to go through. So the idea of were you saying in some respect that action to address, if you're any one of those or possess any of those vices, is to go through the process, is to turn that weakness into that asset. Is it a willingness and just as we'll kind of get into, is just the willingness to say, yeah, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it now because I have to, and I'll come out stronger. Which I think we're all past that point now, where it's been long enough, feels like an eternity since really everything broke. But I think now people are starting to figure out a path back, or figure out, there was that great idea somewhere early on that said, look, you had three choices. You could shut it down, you could, wait it out, or you can come out stronger. And I think more people are coming to that idea going, I want to do that third thing, but I don't know how. And I think what I enjoyed when I first saw the book was that it instead of most books being very prescriptive, here's what I did, you can do it too. Yeah. You kind of put it out there going, hey, it's kind of on you to find your place in this thing. And that was the fun, because I actually crashed the book club meeting. I don't think I was invited. It must have been an email problem. But I don't know, but I kind of joined it. And that was sort of the fun process of figuring out where you sit and how do you transform? Because I think everyone, and hopefully everyone on the call today, in some fashion is dealing with transformation. And I think what you guys did a really cool job in making it really accessible to find your place and start a transformation that's meaningful, and you're doing it on your terms, because so much of what's going on right now is being thrust on people.
It's like that it's that classic hero's journey that we all go through, and you're either internally called to do something, or some external force is making you in some way, and you might not even understand what it is, but you're feeling compelled to do something, to seek something, to gain clarity, to understand, to figure out who you want to be. And whether we have that gut feeling that we've got to learn about this within ourselves, or something in the world is happening to make us do so, I don't think it matters. I think the beautiful thing about the right here and right now is this gorgeous opportunity that we have to look ourselves in the eye and say, what do we want to be when we grow up? And we've got a chance to transform ourselves. We have a chance right now to like get out of this status quo thinking, this cookie cutter way of living, this traditional path that we've usually kind of been just inundated with for our entire lives, to wake up and say, you know what, that's not for me. And I'm going to go and search for that thing that is, so that I can feel part of something bigger. And so I can really become what it is I'm here to do. I'm born to do.
Well, I don't think rare breeds, I think rare breeds don't have jobs. I think they have callings. And I think what you're asking is, it's really more a conversation about identity, because so many of us identify our identity with the job that we're in. And what I've learned through, I think we've learned really through writing Rare Breed and speaking to people who have come to hear us speak. I mean, we've been speaking a lot, and the amount of people that have come up to us and said what this book has done for them is truly like staggering for me. I mean, as like your co-author, like I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Like what people say the book did for them. But I think what is really interesting to me is that the gifts are within you, no matter what table you're sitting at, no matter what job you're doing. And we seem to forget that. And I think especially right now with COVID, a lot of people have been forced either out of the jobs or, the work that they were doing, or maybe they're struggling to make ends meet, or maybe they've been furloughed, or, there's a whole host of situations that so many people, I mean, we had just take Motto, for example, which is our agency. The first week of COVID, like we had a $250,000 job, like put on pause, and we were like, wonderful. And then, that next day, like we get another job. And so like the industries were sort of paralyzing. What I was seeing I was like, okay, this is an opportunity for us as leaders to not go thorn, which is this idea of becoming paralyzed. Like rabbits go thorn when they sense prey, where they kind of almost like freeze, and when they actually should be running. So, the fact is that I think we need to learn how to tap into those traits, to hear that voice and really be able to pivot so that no matter where we're at and whatever table we're sitting at or whatever job we're trying to do, that the calling remains the same, that doesn't change, but perhaps the environment in which you're trying to do that calling is what changes, and that you're okay with that. Because if you have one of these 7 traits, you can use one of those 7 traits to either uplift you or undo you. It's your choice which one that's going to be.
I think that lends nicely, Kev, if we want to advance to a slide, playing off of the right here, right now mindset and some of the examples that you've started to share. There's obviously a lot going on in the world around us right now. And so I think it's appropriate to really ask, why is now a good time for rare breeds to rise?
Well, I think Ash, you can probably answer this too.
It's always the right time for rare breeds to rise. But because we have this moment of pause, and it's got a lot of people thinking about what they want for their future career, for their future business, for their future role, for their future impact, whatever it might be. This is the right time to do it, because we're looking at a future that is dramatically different than the one that we just were in 3 months ago. And everything is going to change. We don't know how it's going to change. We don't know the nuances of that change, but everything, we're experiencing a major shift around the world right now. And I think there's so much opportunity for incredible people to come up, to rise up, to do the thing that they've been wanting to do their whole life, but have been scared to do, that have been fearful of doing, that they've been holding themselves back on. And I think the more rare breeds start rising, the more amazing our world will be, because you have this sense of breaking what's not working, changing things for the better, going all in on your special gifts and your uniqueness and your individuality. And that's what the world needs. We don't need to just like hum along and exist. We've been doing that. We need to we need to get to that next level and help the people around us do so as well. So this is like a ripple effect, I think.
Absolutely. And I think we're starting to get some good questions in from some of our viewers. And one really relevant one to build off of this is from Jared. He said, what are some things you are seeing rare breeds doing to shift their businesses, branding, or personalities during COVID? Are there any examples you might be able to share that stand out?
Oh, we've seen so many recently.
Everything from shifting, in the beginning of COVID, we saw this incredible corporate shift, I think, from a lot of businesses like trying to step up and help. There's this enormous generosity that I think that we've experienced as business, where this giving attitude that I think is incredible. But what I see a lot of people actually doing is like rethinking their businesses in a way that it's like, whether that's bringing their business online, which is a major transition for those who are not already adapt to that, or kind of figuring out who they are and who they are not. A lot of companies, especially clients that we work with at Motto, they come to us seeking clarity on their brands and alignment on their brands, and really getting to the bottom of who are we? What do we stand for? What kind of culture do we want to build? What do we need to do to become the thing that we want to become? And so often companies simply don't allow themselves the time that it takes to figure out those questions and determine what it is they need to do. So we're seeing a ton of people like rebranding right now, so that they can get more in tune with who they are, and like stop doing the things that they were doing because they felt like they had to, and start doing the things that they do because that is what they're meant to do, which I think is incredible.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of that, I would say. That's a really good question, Jared. I think I've seen a lot of that. And what was so interesting to me about even when this was happening with Motto specifically, where we had, quite a few clients that had to hit pause, and our immediate thinking was, we just started giving. Like, we did all these webinars, and we were like just trying to like get people to come and talk to us and just say, like, just tell us what you're going through and we'll try to help you. And it was not even about can we get more money? Can we, how are we going to stay afloat? Like, even though those were questions and conversations that we were having, it's like we immediately went into giving mode. Of trying to give what we knew to our clients. Like, even clients that had tried to hit pause, we immediately went to them and said, it's totally okay. Like, what can we do to help you get through this right now? And it was like really interesting to see what that made us also realize of the way we were operating, of that it's so much about giving the gifts that you have. Because maybe right then and there, like, they could only pay us a little bit, or maybe they couldn't pay us what they were paying us before or whatever. But like, it was kind of like a give and take, and like, we're just going to help each other through it. And we found that to be really remarkable. And we're just seeing so many companies and so many individuals. Like, I'm seeing so much creativity and innovation that I haven't seen in a long time popping up and arising, simply because people are just, they're forced to pivot and do something extraordinary because they've got to survive. And so when you do that, you can either, like I said, you go Tharn, you go paralyzed, you freeze, you do nothing, you become a terrible leader because you don't know what to say or what to do, or you step up and you give people a plan and you try to think in shorter increments, like almost like you think in quarters, right? Instead of thinking like in long, like, well, let's think, 5 years, 10 years, like, no, start thinking in like 30 days. Start thinking in 30, 60, 90.
Yeah.
Start thinking in 2-week increments. That's how you start to pivot and adapt, is you just get creative and you try to use your skill set to the best of your ability, no matter whether you have clients or not. You find a way. You just find a way. Rare breeds find a way.
And to build that about ways that might be out in the world that people can see, Calvin just wrote in a question. Is there a real life example or brands that that we all might know that are really living it, that are putting that purpose out and living the rare breed values in a way that is sort of emblematic of everything you're talking about? Are there some brands out there that you would point to for people?
Yeah, there are a lot. I mean, the first one that comes to my mind, and it's because I came across it just a couple weeks ago, is Chobani. And we write about Chobani in the book. Hamdi is such a kind spirit, but he's got this rebellious streak to him. You know, he has been known to hire refugees and immigrants and really advocates for other businesses in the United States to do the same. And, you know, for a long time doing that, he has drawn such conspiracy theories around, like, you know, this guy is unpatriotic or whatever. I mean, he built his business out of an abandoned craft factory, and now he's the number one selling yogurt. But there's such a heart and soul to the brand. What they've done recently, which I thought was really cool, was they took their store, the Chobani Cafe in Soho in New York City, and because it had to be shut down during this time, they turned it into a yogurt pantry, basically a food pantry, where they are giving all of their food away for free for people who need it. I think that is such an amazing example of somebody who's always been a rare breed. You know, it's not a company that, like, all of a sudden they just became this amazing thing. They've had these roots embedded into the DNA of the company since its existence, but now they're stepping out to really do something for the public, do something for the greater good, to live their purpose. And I find that truly inspiring.
And to build on that, and Sonny or Lindsay, and if you guys have some, that's cool too. But you just got me thinking about this, and I think about, and again, I'm just doing it from an outside in perspective. But when I look at Dyson, you know, there's almost an obsession with engineering and what and we all know about cyclones and cleaning floors and what, you know, the amazing engineering chops, but to turn that a few degrees and turn that obsession into the production of ventilators. And they launched a Covent, which they don't quote me, but I think I had read somewhere where they had just the ability to turn it out a ventilator in 10 days.
Literally overnight. Yeah.
And so obsession, again, when we look at it as a weakness or asset, weakness of obsession, we know what that might look like. But the idea of taking it into a positive strength and energizing that kind of positive change in the world, what Dyson and everyone associated with Dyson kind of just turned on their heels and did that. I mean, it's just phenomenal. And it's something that we can all look at and go, what do we do really well? What's our strength? How can we redirect it and start producing positive change somewhere else in a different way?
Yeah. What's really interesting too is something that we has developed with the book that I thought was really interesting that we didn't actually think about in the very beginning when we were writing it, but it kind of turned the corner in being a sort of a personal success. Like, it was a personal development tool, career book, if you will, where you would read Rare Breed as an individual and start to tap into those strengths wherever you were in your life, work, or career. But what's really happened in the last 6 months since Rare Breed came out is we've now turned this corner where organizations are hiring us for virtual workshops where we're going in and we're talking to them about the 7 traits and how those 7 traits can actually be used to position their company, to reposition their company. Right. So I think it was Art had asked a question, how do you pierce that corporate cautious bubble using the Rare Breed approach? This is really interesting because what we've been doing is we're teaching organizations how to think more rebellious, audacious, obsessed, weird, hypnotic, and emotional. And how those things, those 7 traits, can be used not only to strengthen your organization in a time like now, but also how do you hire for these individuals that embody these traits, which typically are seen as negatives. How do you employ Rare Breed talent within your organization? How do you seek the rebel out? How do you seek the emotional out? How do you seek the weird out? Because they become this kind of colorful palette in your paint box of tools that you use as a company to stand out. And it's always like, you know, look, we've been in hundreds of organizations. Like, our business at Motto is literally going into companies to help them unravel what doesn't make sense to them, what's not clear, what their cultures are a mess. Typically, we're going in to help them kind of achieve that clarity and find the big idea worth rallying around. Mm-hmm. And what we're doing is we're using Rare Breed as the tool to teach them not only how to look and seek out the rebel, but also how to make them a key pillar in their business, to employ them and lift their organization up. Because what you need is an innovation team. You need people who don't think like everybody else in order to get you out of this mess. Your way of thinking does not work.
That's awesome.
So you have to think of different ways. So Art, to your point, every corporate company we go into is very cautious. You know, it's hard to turn the Titanic around away from the iceberg. But the key there is that it's not about not being cautious. It's simply about knowing that you have to cross that threshold. You have to be able to be a little bit defiant, a little bit dangerous. You've got to be able to willing to go there, or else your company either fades or it just stays where it's at. It never grows, it never scales, it never evolves.
Yeah.
And that's what Rare Breed is such a powerful tool to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's that wake up call. How do you pierce the corporate cautious bubble? You give them a wake up call. Like
you give them Rare Breed.
Well, it's
go,
about,
go read this right now.
I mean, it's about showing the value of something like this to people who wouldn't see it necessarily. And I think if you can show the value of it, if you can demonstrate why the creative thinking, why the innovation, why the transformation, why this type of growth is necessary and makes sense for business, then you can start to have this conversation. If you're not open to it, it won't happen.
And that may be just the perfect segue into what we wanted to do in the rest of our conversation, is to really start to pull out a couple pieces of things. And just for anyone who hasn't been through the book or familiar with Rare Breed, is that in addition to the 7 values and virtues, I should say, is the notion of mantras, which are ideas that help you live and internalize certain virtues. And again, I do mention the book club again. They asked for props for this. Is that we did some informal polling, and if you have a book club or want to start one, it's a great idea because it gets people talking. But anyway, we have a few that we really want to put out front and center and talk about. And I think just to, and Art, what's up, Art, had the question about, going into a company that might not be leaning into this, might not be going chin first into doing this, but there are people within a company going, oh man, why are we not? How do we do this? So maybe this will help a little bit. One of the mantras is reinvention as the superpower. So I think we can all start to go down a certain place and understand what that means. But would love to have you guys give us your take on what you were thinking and maybe what you're finding out in all the people that you're talking to. What are we finding the value that people can walk away today going, that this is something I could use, something I could do?
Yeah, I think there is enormous energy that comes from having a positive and enthusiastic outlook about change and about what is possible. So many of us in ourselves and our careers and our companies, we just get stuck in wherever we're at. Like, it's really hard to kind of see past the horizon. And when you can start to think about your reinvention as getting to that next level, having even living more fully into your purpose, and what that can actually do for in terms of impact, it's very empowering for a lot of people who are finally like, thank you, finally, like I think what happens a lot of time in companies is leadership doesn't ever quite allow the groundswell to come up and actually do something to make the change that's actually necessary, because of fear and risk adversity and all of that stuff. So I think that if there is an open-mindedness about who can we be, what can we do, start asking the questions, why, how, when, where, like those are like little those are like little sparks to help you kind of see past the right here and right now. And it creates this huge superpower to be able to position your business, your brand, yourself, even as with a very refreshing lens. And I think people and companies who are true to who they are, there's great power in that. Just so few of us actually do it. And
it's kind of about doing the impossible. Like we have a client right now that is in the esports industry. They're one of the top teams in the esports industry, and based in Sweden. And 95% of esports teams are male. There are no female gamers because they are bullied out of the industry. And on our kickoff call today, we posed the question back. You know, they want to be innovative. They want to push they want to push the conversation in a different way. And I said, look, guys, you can't have values on the wall that you don't live. Like this organization, we need to be able to make sure that whatever you're saying, that you are embodying that and you are driving it through every decision that you're making. So if you want to have diversity, it can't be that diversity lives behind the walls of the castle. They have to be on the front lines. If gamers are 95% male, actually more than that, male dominated, are you telling me that in all of the world, out of millions of people, there's not one girl gamer that could crush it?
Mhm.
Bullshit. So I said, what do we think about that? Like, can we be the first team to bring in a female player? Like, coach her, bring her in, like make her, you know, open that door, change the conversation. That is what separates a rare breed organization from everyone else. You've got to be the first one to be brave. Yes, you're going to take an arrow in the back, but you're also going to be remembered. So you have to find ways to use reinvention as that superpower to really lean forward and do something to shake the walls.
Mhm.
Otherwise,
Have that
why
voice.
have it? Why you don't shake the pillars of business. You just ride the coattails of everyone else, and then you're like, well, we really want to be the next Elon Musk. You know, want to be the next Tesla.
Yeah, what I love about what you're saying, and also just the way it's crafted of reinvention as a superpower, it's really about change and transformation on my terms.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So the esports team is going to go. We're gonna yes, be first and be brave enough to make that first move, but we're going to do it because we're going to do it on our terms. We don't want to have to react to someone else going, we were going to do this 6 months ago.
Yeah.
We were going to have a girl on the team.
We wanted to do that.
I was like, oh my gosh. Like,
well, if you wanted to, you would have.
Yeah,
Like,
but
Right, right.
think about it though. We're in 2020 and there are no female gamers
Yeah.
on professional esports teams. Like, it's unbelievable.
Absolutely, and I want to build on something you said only a couple of minutes ago, because we're having these conversations with the people we're working with and even ourselves, is that we really do believe, and it ties to what you're just saying, the decisions that you make in the next 30, 60, 90 days are probably most likely going to dramatically impact your trajectory for the next 2 or 3 years.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So to sit and wait is you're going to get, and you're just going to get outpaced by someone else because they had the guts to make the move. So I love that. I want to jump, because as we're kind of winding down, I want to make sure we put some attention to all these. Because I mentioned it to you guys. I love to say yes and the story of it. Because it also kind of plays through this theme that says, look, I'm going to say yes, even though I might not be 100% ready. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. So if you guys wouldn't mind, tell us a little bit about what's doing behind Say Yes.
Yeah, well, that's a really funny story. So my dad was in the USO and was in the Army, and he traveled the world, and he was they had the USO MC, so the entertainment committee, and apparently they were hosting like Johnny Cash and Patsy Cline. They were on tour, and the original MC, something happens, he gets sick or something like that, and can't make the show. And the sergeant comes in, and he tells everybody, attention. He says, "Can any of you shitheads sing?" And there's my dad, Mr. Bonnell, in the barracks, and he dumps
Scrawny
his
little kid
ass up, and he says, yeah, sir, I can. He didn't know what the fuck he was doing, let's be honest. But he said yes. And what was really fascinating about that story was he became the MC. He traveled with Patsy Cline and Johnny Cash, sang with them on stage, became the MC because he did such an amazing job. He was very charismatic. He was just a wonderful human being, and everyone loved him. And so, it just was not surprising that number one, he would do that, and that I'm his daughter. But number two, that it led to something really powerful. And I think that so many of us, we hear the word no, or we hear the word, somebody gives us an opportunity and we say, not now, not right now. We've got this, we've got that, we've got too much going on. We make every excuse in the book as to why no makes sense. And that was a real lesson of saying yes. Like, what if you just said yes to like, want to do a webinar at 1:30? Sure, let's do it. Like, you just don't know what you're going to meet, what you're going to do, what you're going to discover about yourself, what kinds of people that you'll meet, what kind of opportunities that you'll have. That's how Rare Breed was born. We got an opportunity from someone who said, hey, I think you guys should write a book. And I blew the guy off for like 6 months, and he just kept on me and on me. He's like, I really think you guys should write a book. One thing leads to another. We get a $5,000 book deal. We turn it down. We're like, we don't need that. We don't even want to write a book. And then lo and behold, fast forward a year and a half later, we get a book that gets turned down. We say, fuck that. We're going to go back and rewrite it. We rewrite it and we get a 6-figure book deal. So it's kind of like one of those things where you have to say yes. Sometimes you just have to say yes. And what does that mean? It really can change the direction of your company or your career or your work. And it's just powerful. I'm not saying say yes to everything, but certainly say yes
to
more
the
than
things
you say
that
no.
you want, especially, a lot of, God, how many of us want to lose weight, but we're like, no, I don't want to go on a walk. No, I don't want to go to the gym.
Who wants to go walking?
No, I don't want to eat, that for breakfast. No. And then what happens? You don't do the thing that you want. And that's the same thing that happens in business. It's the same thing that happens in our careers. We just say no because we're like being lazy, or don't want to be bothered, or whatever the reason might be. But if you could just say yes to something, imagine the transformation that can happen in that event.
And I love, just before you move to the next one, I just love the idea of saying yes, but in light of a feet to the fire moment.
Yeah,
you really have to. You just can't
have to, even when you're not ready.
Yeah. And that's what I just loved about it. Even though he might not have, your dad kept up on his singing lessons. Damn it, I'm gonna go and do it.
I might sound terrible.
Hit it.
Right.
He was like, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I'll figure it out.
Let's go. And I love the bravery of that. Next one. And just want to keep an eye on time. And also great questions. And they're coming in. If you have some more, just to fuel the rest of the conversation as we get to the end, and now would be a good time to, if you got them, send them, kind of thing. Being that headlight, we hear a lot about this idea of some choosing to go, particularly with advertisers or marketers or companies, going dark versus becoming a beacon. And that's why we love being the headlight. Can you give us a little background and inspiration of how you landed here?
Yeah, this was our actual little mantra inspired by a speech that MLK did. So, back in like 1963, he gave this speech, and I'm gonna read this speech or this little quote because it's really powerful. And we have it in our book. But it says, "Standing as a taillight behind other community agencies rather than a headlight, leading men to higher levels of justice." And he was talking about how we are always kind of just not leading the way for others. And if you think about like just social movements or big change that needs to happen, you have to shine the light on what is in front of you in order for people to rally around it, to want to be part of it, to want to see themselves as part of it. And we don't do that very often. But how important is it to say, this is where we're going. This is what I see for our future. This is what's possible that we could do. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be really hard. It might suck a lot of the time, but we, with effort and with diligence and with purpose and with like everything in us, we can make this happen. We can create this future.
Yeah. Yeah. And also Juliana just asked a great question, which I think ties into this, which is there any story you can tell about someone who has transformed using these principles? So actually in the book, we go into great detail about a chef, a Dallas-based chef who became a CNN hero, who takes kids out of juvenile detention and teaches them to cook in his kitchen. And these kids come in and they learn how to cook, how to serve, how to
Run the back,
become very organized. He takes these kids out of very, very poor living conditions, life circumstances that many of these kids have been in. They don't have families, they don't have homes, and he teaches them how to cook with knives and fire, which sounds very counterintuitive to what you should be doing. And everyone told him he was absolutely insane.
That's so dangerous.
That's
They're
so
gonna stab something.
They're gonna stab.
They're gonna light it on fire.
Yeah,
you know?
please. And he just felt really compelled to do this. And so when we talk about this idea of be a headlight, that's what he has done with his restaurant, and it has led to these kids. They are now going on to become successful in life. They are, some of them staying on and working in the restaurant, some of them going on and finding careers that probably may not have happened, because if you look at the statistics with some of these kids, they were always ending back up in juvenile detention. And through this program, they're coming out the other side as really a transformed citizens. So, you know, there's so many stories like that in the book. I mean, we talk
he's
so
a headlight.
many. He's a headlight. Like,
You
he's
know,
a headlight.
it's that kind of person that you need, you know,
in a world of darkness.
And if you don't have that person in your life, be that person for someone else.
For sure.
I think that's really what this is all about, paying that
Absolutely.
forward.
Yeah, great question, Juliana.
Great. This one, you hear a lot about passion, and it's one of those kind of words. I mean, we all know that word. It means different things to different people, and sometimes it even gets misinterpreted. So I love this mantra as it's expressed here. Can you give us a little bit of sense of how do you see passion playing out in this idea?
I think passion is, I mean, you can be passionate about gardening, you know, I mean, you can be passionate about a lot of things, but there's a difference between passion and intensity. And that's why in the book, we actually call it hot-blooded, because there's a difference, right? Like, what's interesting about each of these vice virtues is the duality. So Joe had asked a question here, why 7 values and virtues? Could there be more? And I'll get to that in a minute. But if you talk about chasing down your passion like it's the last bus of the night, it's very different than having a hobby or something that you're kind of passionate about. Like, passion means to suffer. And as I said earlier, like, rare breeds don't have jobs, they have callings. I think that when you are passionate, there's an intensity there. If you are a rare breed, there's an intensity to what you do. There's a fuel to what you do. You're willing to suffer for it. You're willing to have lack of sleep. I mean, you know, we've all done it, right? You know, there is something different about being passionate, but also having it be like you cannot not do the thing that you feel you need and must do. And that's the difference between having passion and being hot-blooded and having a white-hot passion or an intensity. It's this thing that you cannot live without. And I really believe that shows up in the things that we do, that we truly, truly are connected to, and that drive us on that journey to do more than our jobs, you know?
Yeah, what I love about that idea also is when you read that statement, chasing, you know, because I'm assuming we all had those moments where we were chasing that last bus of the night. And I love how you up the ante, and there's something at stake here. Yeah. So you can have passion. You know, I love, you know, painting, you know, sports teams on rocks.
Loves this pet rock, everybody.
That. They sport, but there's nothing at stake.
Right.
You know, there's a passion there, but there's something really in the balance, and it's what I love about that idea. And I think when people put passion on the table, there has to be something meaningful on the line.
Yep, absolutely. That's a great point. So I wanted to address Joe's question about the value, the vices and virtues. They're actually vices. So when we were exploring the list,
turn virtues,
it was important that they had a duality, meaning they could be uplifting as they were undoing. So if you think about emotion, or you think about obsession, right? Obsession is something that, you know, you'll stay up all night, you won't eat, you won't sleep. It can become very paralyzing, but it can also be very detrimental, right? But it can also make greatness, right? You talked about Dyson earlier. You become so obsessed on whatever the thing is that you cannot and will not stop until you have forged that fire and taken every bullet possible to realize that dream. And so it was important that each one of these things had a dark side, that they were dangerous, that there was something about them that was destructive to your personality. And so, yeah, there were many. I mean, if you would have pre-ordered the book, you would have gotten this. We sent this out actually to people that pre-ordered the book, but we actually shared the list of all of the vice virtues that we had gone through. We had whiteboards of vices and virtues, like literally hundreds of them.
But we ultimately found that all those adjectives
laddered up
to the 7 that we ultimately decided on.
Yeah. So it's kind of like the 7 deadly sins, but a play on that.
Cool. Well, I think it's the last one, so we're kind of winding down on these mantras, and this one I think is appropriate. And what connected with us is that so many conversations, and I'm sure you guys are having them as well, is where it's there's that perception that says when you start to talk about these higher order things, or the dreaded term of like, that's kind of a squishy thing, and if it makes you feel good, more power to you. But how does it impact what we need to do? And right now, specifically, how do we start to get traction? So I'm playing role playing. Yes, Rare Breed. I love that, and culturally, we're going to do this. But what's as this says, what is the ROI on weirdness? And weirdness being one of the virtues, vices, is how do you explain that in the sense of not literally perhaps, but the ROI on weirdness? How do you make someone pay attention to that in a way that could really impact their business?
Well, I'll give you 2 words.
Yeah.
Tim Burton. Think, does anybody remember Frankenweenie? When he created Frankenweenie at his time at Disney and got thrown out of Disney because of, how do you get the king of weird gets thrown out of Disney, but goes on to become Tim Burton, So that's the ROI of weirdness.
Yeah,
right there.
I think there's a huge ROI. I think it's a very underestimated ROI of weirdness. Yeah. In the book, we write about this guy, Chase Street, and he's a copywriter, and he wanted a job at Wheaton and Kennedy. So what did he do? He didn't do what everybody else did. He didn't just, put his resume on a piece of paper, email it in, or post it somewhere, or send it in snail mail. No, he went on,
or say, "Dear sirs." We
Dear
get that
sirs,
one all the time.
He didn't
Dear
put some
sirs.
generic, resume together. He literally, and it was for Sprite, right? So he wanted to write for Sprite at Wheaton and Kennedy, and so he developed a rap video for it. And he was decked out, and you guys have to watch it. So Gary, I hope for your people here, you find the link and post it to them.
Oh yeah.
But, so he went out, he decked out, he had like a lime green jacket. He went on a hoverboard. He had this huge gold chain with like a lime or a lemon on it. Like, he just decked out in Sprite colors and did wrote this entire rap and how he wanted to write for Sprite. It is genius. He got hired because it was so weird that it was the only resume that made sense for that role. If he would have just put that stuff in a normal resume like everybody else did, that's why they didn't get hired and he did. So it's this idea of stepping up and stepping out and doing something that is so magnificent and so weird that it can't help but be noticed. And that goes into Connor's question as well. Like, at a time when most people are thinking about security and safety, is a good time to put yourself out there and pursue your rare breed virtues now? Yes, because that's what everybody else is doing. Everybody else is focused on this safe stuff. Now is the time to step out, because you will be noticed. You will be heard. You will actually be seen. Everybody who's in that safety zone, it's becoming so much water under the bridge. All of those messages, we're not really like, yes, we know we care about them right now, but they're all sounding the same. So this is the question of you putting that weirdness forward to make yourself different and visible.
Yeah. And I would also encourage you guys, whoever's on the call, but we have a YouTube show called Rare Breed, where we sit down with cultural provocateurs, and we sit down with them for anywhere from about 45 minutes to an hour, and we explore the vice virtue in their life, work, and career. And we've sat down with Charlemagne the God. We've sat down with YouTube superstar Dodie, YouTube sensation Bretman Rock. Just sat down with PJ Morton from Maroon 5. Like, he just won 2 Grammys. Like, we've sat down with some pretty interesting characters, and we kind of really go deep on each one of these vice virtues. And it's really fascinating to kind of see, because you learn through them how they've been using the vice virtue to their, how has it closed doors and how has it opened doors.
That's awesome. And love those. We're just gonna kind of bring this back to this idea, and I go back to the earlier idea, which is that, how do you evolve when you've got no choice but to evolve? So with that as a bit of an overlay, what can you share with people and advice for rare breeds that are out there, but also ones that are yearning to figure out how to be a rare breed? What advice would you share that maybe we haven't yet?
I think that you should figure out what your virtue is. Like, take our quiz, let it help you figure out what that is, which is really insightful. It gives you all kinds of insight into your personal virtue if you just answer a series of questions. I think once you know what that is, you can message around it, right? You can use it. You can create content and materials around it. You can make it make sense to people, whoever that audience is that you're trying to reach. I mean, the world needs more rebellious people. The world needs more audacious thinkers. The world needs more weirdos. The world needs more rare breeds. And
not weirdos in a white van stalking.
No, not those kind of weirdos. Just the good kind.
Clear distinction.
Just want to make that point.
The world needs you. Is I think at the end of the day what it is. So no more silence. No more quieting your voice. That thing inside you, this is, I can't do that. I can't be that. We can't do that. We can't. Yes, you can, if you just try. And it might not be tomorrow that you get that, glory that you're looking for. It might take years to build that, but, don't give up on the dream because it's hard. That's what I would leave people with.
Well, Sunny, Ashleigh, I just want to say for us and everyone who's been involved, really thanks for doing this. And while we've had opportunities to chat, this is really great to spend a little extra time to dig in a little bit and have you guys as live and in person as we can be to kind of share with us. So
thank you.
Thank
really
you
appreciate
so much.
that.
Yeah, and anybody on here, reach out to us, say hello. We're at This Is Rare Breed all across social at We Are Motto. Connect with us, say hello. I saw some questions come in that we couldn't get to. Please, send them our way. We'll answer them for you if we didn't get a chance to answer them on this call. But yeah, we're looking forward to connecting with all of you. And if you haven't bought the book, you better go get it, because it's a good one.
And
it's a great read.
Because we had mentioned it only a few minutes ago, is that we wanted to leave you guys with some next steps, or and as Sunny was just saying, if you're curious to find out more or go down a certain path, I just wanted to remind you guys that and this has been a great one, is we're looking to continue this conversation around putting purpose first and using it as that kind of catalyst for positive change. So if and we still have a good number of people on the call, and thanks for that, spending your time on a Friday. But if there's some ideas or some things, and we heard some great names of people that you guys have been talking to, and we have had our conversations with, but you who've been part of this, who've been listening, if you have some interesting people, or we'll go with the book. We have about 4 or 5 programs within this series that are all based on purpose. And today was really beautifully done around authenticity and transformation. There's going to be some others down I guess over the next 4 or 5 weeks. But if you have some ideas, share them with us, because we want to make this relevant and useful in a place where people can cut away. We're going to shoot for like Fridays. To do this kind of thing that I know we did, but hopefully you got a lot out of. And I want to direct you guys to the assessment. We on our side, and again, our group in discovering Rare Breed, took the assessment and have that to talk about, and to build on Ashleigh's point about just do it and find out what yours is. There's a place you can go and take the quiz and start that journey. The other piece is down below is a purpose first workshop which is really focused more on kind of unearthing this purpose within teams or companies. So we want to, by way of these two options, invite anyone who might be compelled to pursue some things to please do that. But otherwise, thanks for spending your valuable time with us. Hope you got a lot out of it. And it's great. Look, I'm really happy to see people that hung on the call. Thanks for that. And thank you guys so much. And also back at 29, thanks everyone for sort of making this happen and connecting the plumbing and making it happen. So
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you guys.
Take
And thank
care.
you everyone for joining.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you guys.